like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Boruto chapter 42 review. Alright guys, this chapter was definitely a very good chapter in my opinion. I know some people were kind of criticizing the main because this fight is taking a lot longer than a lot of the other fights in Boruto, but this chapter did include a lot of things that we have to get through, and of course the main thing being is Sarada Uchiha. Sarada Uchiha over the past 3 chapters have been absolutely insane. She's been the star over the last 3 chapters. There has been some great contributions from some other characters, but the most impactful thing that we did see from these couple of chapters has to be from Sarada Uchiha, and she didn't disappoint in this chapter either. But one thing that I do have to point out, Sarada to start off was a little bit, I should say, disappointing, and it's not necessarily her fault mainly because she didn't necessarily have a lot of information about the person that they were fighting, but the overall plan of how to beat Boro and how to take down Boro and pretty much stop him from what he was doing, it honestly came from Kawaki. So in terms of this chapter and this chapter alone, the leader of Team 7 seemed to be Kawaki. That's not necessarily any big slight against Sarada mainly because, as I said, Kawaki is the person who has intel on Boro. Of course, Sarada being the leader, she has to take all the information that she can possibly get and do with it what she can, and that's exactly what she did. What we did see is that Sarada is using her sharingan more and more, and this is something that's extremely surprising. I spoke about this in my 2019 awards video. Sarada in 2019, or a large part of 2019 and all of 2018, never used her sharingan. The last time that we seen Sarada with her sharingan was probably in the Gaiden arc when she actually ran into Sasuke for one of the first times that they did meet. But one of the best things that we can't take away from it is the fact that Sarada is learning more and more how to use her sharingan, mainly because when she does use it, it's like she doesn't necessarily know what to do. They have to guide Sarada, tell her exactly what to do. For example, in the last chapter, hey, look at the smoke and see exactly what it is. And in this chapter, find out where Boro's core is, and she actually did. She actually figured out exactly what's going on. Now, Boro has this special ability where he can regenerate, and it's extremely overpowered, and I spoke about this before in the last chapter review, how we've never really seen anything like this in the Naruto series. What Kawaki did say is that the only way to stop Boro from regenerating is to pretty much destroy his core, and Boro had the ability to switch his core from place to place and body part to body part, and we didn't necessarily know how. Now this is great, and I mean great writing by the Boruto writers, man, because in the last 2 chapters that we did see in the fight versus Boro, Boro has been using these hand signs and no one really knew what they did, and it seemed like in this chapter it finally came to light. Boro is actually switching his core from body part to body part, and Sarada keyed in on that, and she actually figured out exactly how to defeat it. Now the big part about this chapter is no surprise, the fact that Sarada ended up using a Chidori. She even said during the chapter that she pretty much doesn't even know how to use it. Some people are saying that it might be the purple lightning. In my opinion, it's 1000% the Chidori. People are saying it's Sasuke's jutsu, like old man Sasuke's jutsu, and Sasuke, from what I remember, never really used the purple lightning. Even in the manga, Mitsuki used the purple lightning before, and they never said, hey, that's Sasuke's jutsu. So in my opinion, this is 1000% the Chidori. It's definitely a jutsu for her, mainly because she has the sharingan, and she just made it look so damn near perfect. Now enough about me drooling over Sarada. A whole bunch of other things happened in this chapter that didn't necessarily include Sarada, and one of the biggest things is Kawaki and Boro's interactions. One important thing from Kawaki that's been made very, very clear over the past couple of the chapters is the fact that Kawaki has changed. He has changed from this extremely cold-hearted guy to this person that actually loves other people, and Boro even hinted on it in this chapter as well. He said Kawaki changed a lot, and not only that, Boro said once he captures Kawaki, he's gonna have to retrain him to be cold-blooded again, and that right there just continues to build the character of Kawaki. Now not only that, Boro actually said that he wanted to take Boruto as well. Now in my opinion, we all knew that Boruto was definitely going to be a slight interest in a lot of the Kata organization's plans, but now we actually have it confirmed that they definitely do want to take Boruto as well. Now I do want to point out that Boro didn't necessarily relay this back to Jigen. For example, we didn't necessarily see Jigen actually tell Boro specifically like, hey, we want to take Boruto as well. But just to understand, if things do end up going left, if Boro actually does survive that Chidori, we're probably not going to see Boruto again, and that right there is very important for the people who do think that it's possible for Kawaki to go back with the Kata organization and then they turn him evil, and then in the future it's going to be Boruto versus Kawaki. If everything goes bad, that right there most likely isn't the case, man, because if everything goes bad, they're both going to get kidnapped, and in the future Boruto is still quote unquote a good guy and Kawaki is still a bad guy. Now the character of Boro is extremely interesting, and it's really interesting for many reasons. One of the first reasons being is that he's part of the Kata organization, and the interaction that we heard from him and Kawaki basically confirmed that everybody in the Kata organization, quote unquote, the inner, had their bodies remodified. They're pretty much freaks of nature at this point, and it was really introduced to us with Kawaki. Of course, he has this genetic modification with his arms, Delta has the same thing with her legs, and Boro potentially has the same thing with his body, but his special ability is that he can regenerate whole limbs and body parts, even his head. He looks to be a little bit weak, and I say that mainly because he didn't necessarily show us anything too crazy. In this chapter alone, he didn't necessarily bring out any extremely hacked jutsu. The only thing that he really did that really wowed me, and I'm pretty sure wowed a lot of you guys, is of course the regeneration, and we've seen that in the last chapter as well. The other things that he did was he used lava style, and he also used gunpowder. Now the reason why he's not necessarily using anything too crazy is the fact that he pretty much understands that all he needs to do is wait until the kids run out of chakra, and of course that's a very good idea, but in terms of perception, it makes Boro look like he doesn't necessarily have a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and then in turn it makes Boro look weak. For example, back when Sasuke fought against a character like Urashiki, we know Sasuke has a whole bunch of hacks and jutsus. We know Sasuke is extremely strong, but because he didn't necessarily use relatively any abilities versus Urashiki, it seemed like he was nerfed. So for Boro to have the adequate respect, in my opinion, he's going to need to show us a lot more abilities, and that kind of coincides with what I think is going to happen in the next chapter. Now we understand that Sarada hit Boro was something extremely crazy. We know that it was the Chidori, and in the next chapter he's most likely probably not going to be able to regenerate, but that does not necessarily mean that Boro is going to die. In the next chapter, in my opinion, he's probably going to want to go on the offensive, mainly because his idea or plan of just letting the little characters run out of chakra, that's done for now because he can't regenerate anymore. Boro being on the offensive could possibly lead to some fatal outcomes, mainly because Mitsuki is running out of chakra very slowly. Boruto audibly said that he was out of chakra, and Kawaki, he also looks like he's extremely hurt. The next chapter is setting for Sarada to be the focal point in the offensive attack or the defensive attack versus Boro, and possibly even beating him. Now I'm not saying it's probably going to be a 1v1 versus Boro, but I feel like Sarada's probably going to be the one that has the most amount of energy. Her and Kawaki are probably going to be the focal points, mainly because Kawaki in turn has the ability to regenerate energy, and Kawaki also doesn't necessarily rely on chakra to keep him going. He just relies on flat out energy in his extremely overpowered body. One thing to be extremely mindful of is the fact that that Chidori possibly took a lot of energy out of Sarada. Not only does Sarada not have it completely matched, as she said, so that in turn could possibly mean that she used a lot more chakra than she necessarily needed to use for a perfect Chidori, even though it definitely did look like a very good Chidori. Regardless, she's probably going to be extremely weakened after that Chidori. Now, not only that, what we know is that back in part 1 of Naruto, Sasuke was only able to use 2 Chidoris. So in a perfect world right now, we can possibly assume that Sarada as well only has 1 more Chidori up her sleeves before she's completely out of chakra. A couple of people in the next chapter, they definitely have something up their sleeve. Kawaki, in my opinion, he can possibly use the second stage of the Karma Seal that we did see in the chapter when Jigen pretty much busted into Naruto's house. Now, Boruto can possibly use the same thing, but one of the things that I do want to point out is the fact that Boruto has an ability that we haven't seen in the manga yet. Now, this is going to be a very, very big stretch, but because Boruto was out of chakra, he can possibly have an involuntary reaction to where his dojutsu pops up. In addition, with Kawaki using the second stage of his Karma Seal, that can definitely lead to them possibly eliminating Boro. Now, we didn't even get to Mitsuki using his Sage Mode, mainly because we understand if Mitsuki uses his Sage Mode, his natural ability is multiplied by like times 10. Now, I do want to point out there's a difference between something being realistic and there's a difference between something being probable. In my opinion, the probable outcome is the fact that everybody else is going to be extremely weak, so Sarada's probably going to shine in the next chapter. Now, it's very possible and / realistic for there to be extreme modifications to the other characters. For example, Boruto uses his dojutsu, Mitsuki goes into Sage Mode, and Kawaki uses the second stage of this Karma Seal. Those things are realistic, but it's very, very probable for those things not to happen. If those things happen in the next chapter and they finish off Boro like that, it would arguably be one of the best chapters of Boruto thus far. And of course, if Sarada in turn just takes over, it wouldn't necessarily be as hyped, but I'm definitely definitely sure that chapter would also be extremely desirable for a lot of the Sarada fans out there and a lot of the Boruto fans out there, period. But I do know what you guys think about this chapter in the comment section below, and of course the next chapter is going to be a very good one. Let me know what you guys think about the scenarios that I did present, what could possibly happen in the next chapter, and also give me your opinion about what you think the outcome is going to be. Do you think that Boro is possibly going to get his way and possibly kidnap Boruto and Kawaki, and then we get a time skip? Or do you guys think that there's going to be a very big possibility that someone else possibly joins in? Or is Sarada just going to take over and do everything herself? Let me know what you guys think. But it's me, your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.
Check my clock, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols. Reaming my body, clothing no issue. Bitch, you look sick, you need a tissue. You drop a body, I just might bless you. I'm metrosexual, no high cholesterol. Where's Jenny Craig? Bitch, just get sexual.